think a lot of times we bring this employee mindset into our business that if I want to earn more, I have to work more, right? Because that's what works like in the work world, right? I give you more hours, you give me more dollars. But that's not how it works in entrepreneurship.
Well, Lissa, thank you so much for joining us today inside of the Productive and Profitable podcast. It is such a pleasure to have you. How has your morning been?
Hey, Teresa, it is really fun to be here. Fridays are like what I call my CEO days. So they're the
Mm,
days I do like deep think work. And so my brain has been working today on, what it is that God's called me to and how I'm investing my time and
mm.
what my best client needs. So you're getting me at a really good time because the wheels have been turning. I'll just say that.
Awesome. Okay, so you mentioned that today's kind of the day that you get a lot of things done. You are a not just a time management coach, but you are a time stewardship coach. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
actually, as of late, this has been really fun to play with. I've been
Awesome.
calling myself an time management strategist
I
because I'm
love that.
literally turning time management on its head because I think, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, in our conversation, that time management is not only not possible. It's also not the solution to our time issues because they go so much deeper, and time management just
Mm,
cleans things up on the outside and makes it look all pretty, but
yeah.
doesn't really fix anything.
Oh man, that's so good. Let's dive into that now because I resonate with that so much. Um, so time management is not really the issue. It helps give you structure, but the deeper
Mhm.
issue is all the other things. So diverge into that
Yeah.
or
Well, if you don't
dive
mind, I
into
would
that.
love to share my story because
I would
I
love
was the
that.
time management queen. I did have all the time blocks in order. I had my checklists, I had my routines, my systems, like everything. Back in the day, my husband served in the military. He would deploy for up to a year at a time. So I
Mm,
was household six at home, running a household, homeschooling three kids, running a business, running a ministry, doing all the things and just, yeah, so you have to be organized. You have to be on top of your game to make it all happen.
mhm.
Well, the problem was I was showing up in body, but not in mind and spirit. I remember like sitting at horseback riding lessons one day with my daughter and sitting there and being like, my body is sitting here on this bench, but my brain is
Good.
like somewhere else. Been there, right? Like I just wasn't ever fully present because I was always thinking about what I should have, could have done in the time I just had and what I needed to do in the time that was coming. And so I
Mhm.
couldn't ever be present to the time that was in front of me. And so I actually ignored the signs that my body and brain were telling me. It started with the guilt that I wasn't being the mom or the wife or the business owner or the ministry leader or whatever that I should be, right? Because there's always more I could do. I'm a one on the Enneagram. We always make things better. So there's never enough that, I'm never doing enough. But then I started ignoring the physical signs, like the pit in my stomach at all times, the tension across my shoulders and like the back of my neck was always like this knot, and then a ball in my throat. So
Mm.
at first, of course, I ignored it because who has time to think about that? However, one day I was like, maybe I'm just eating too fast. I need to slow down, right?
Mm.
So, because I was always in a hurry. So I tried slowing down my eating. I tried drinking more water. It didn't change anything. And so I was like, well, I don't got time to deal with this. It'll be fine. Until it had been a year. And I was like, all of a sudden went, whoa, something could be
Oh,
going on inside of there that's going to cost me a lot of time, money, energy, stress. I need to go get it checked out. So I promised my besties I would go to a doctor who tried medication, who tried lifestyle changes, who finally said, let's put a camera down there. So I remember walking into his office the day for that follow-up appointment, right? He sits me down. He's like, Lissa, there is no ball in your throat. I have put a camera in there. But you think you have a ball in your throat because you have hystericus globus. And he just sat there with a smirk on his face. I know, like your look on your face right now, too. I'm like,
Derek Glovis.
what is that? That just sounds really random. He
Scary.
goes, this globe ball, you have this sensation of a ball. And then you're going to love this part. Hystericus. And he goes like this. And he starts swirling his fingers. He's like, hystericus, right? Like that's where they got the word hysterectomy. They thought women were going crazy in midlife. He's like, it's all in your head. You
Yeah.
have anxiety around all these things that you're trying to get done in your day. And I'm happy to prescribe you a pill. I am not against medication in any way, shape, or form, especially for mental health, and things like that. But I knew in that moment that a pill was not going to fix the problem. It was just going to mask it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I wish I could say that everything changed in that moment. It didn't, but it was over time that that moment started fleshing out. And one of the things that happened just a couple weeks after that, I get this package in the mail from Amazon. It was my dad. And he sent me this book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by a pastor named John Mark Comer.
Yes.
And he said, I hope I didn't just offend you. And I laugh now, right? Because looking back, I mean, I wasn't offended. At this point, I knew something was wrong and I needed to do something, but it was like I couldn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was through that process that God showed me your busyness is not a disordered calendar because my calendar was super organized. Your busyness is a disordered heart. And
Yes.
if and until you get down to that level of all the lesser things you're chasing after, all the not enoughness, my time's not enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough. It's like this slippery slope. I would always have this time anxiety, right? And I would always have that. So it was this process because if you are a doer, like a
Yeah.
lot of us are in business, right? We don't go into business and kind of like lay on the couch and binge Netflix. Let's be honest. My clients are not wasting time on the couch. They're on the hamster wheel working more than they should, right? Myself
Mm-hmm.
included. I
Mm-hmm.
call it a busyness, right? Like a busyness is where you think you're running a business, but you're just checking boxes and
Yes.
filling these little blanks in your calendar and showing up to things, but not really seeing the results in your bank account.
Yeah.
So anyway, then the progression of like, okay, so time management wasn't the solution, and trying to figure out like, how is it that God has called us to approach time?
Mm.
Because I think we run around all day long saying there's not enough time. I ran out of time.
I
I'm
wish I
behind.
had more time.
I wish I had more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
like I'll have time when, like, you have littles at home. I'm
Yeah.
just going to say to you and every other young mom out there, because I'm now an empty nest mom, it does not get better when they leave the house.
Right.
I know you think it does, but actually, your time is more under control when they're in the same house with you all the time and you control where they go than
Mm.
when they start getting independent and spread out and start making adult decisions and starting their own families and move across the country. And so it doesn't because over time we take on more over time. And so it just fills with something else. Right. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's been this whole work that God's done in my heart of like,
Mm.
how do I completely turn everything that they're telling us out there? You just have to be better at managing your time. We hear it all the time, right?
Yeah.
You just need to get more organized
Yeah.
and go, okay, how has God called us to approach our time? And that is where time stewardship comes in, which is very different from time management.
So good. Yes. So a lot of what you have shared, I know that I personally have struggled with that in the past and even now in certain seasons, especially of busyness, right? But it's so interesting hearing you say it and know that that's exactly what my clients struggle with. It's all that other stuff. So when you say time stewardship is different than time management, what is the difference?
Okay. I love this. I used to be an English teacher. So let's go to some definitions. Okay.
Love it. Love
The
it.
teacher brain is like, what do these words mean?
Did
Okay.
you know that I used to be a teacher too? Did we know
No,
that?
I don't know if we
Yeah.
talked about that. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Okay. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. That's why we hit it off so well. Okay.
Yeah.
So to manage means to keep contained or to keep under control.
Mm,
So I call it a constant game of whack-a-mole that you're never going to win.
mm,
Good luck trying to keep everything under control in your life. Good luck trying to, completely keep contained all the minutes, the hours, whatever of your day and the people and things that fill it.
yeah.
It's an illusion. If you ever do feel like you finally have all your ducks in a row, it does not last. It is a mirage. It will very quickly, interruption, distraction,
Yeah.
ring ding ping from this thing that's always an arm's length away from us.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we run around all day long, look at a manager at a fast food restaurant. They are literally running around behind the counter trying to keep everyone and everything in order.
Yeah.
And how do they feel at the end of their shift?
Worn out,
They are
stressed.
exhausted. They
Yeah.
are spent. Yes, there is nothing left to give, and they have to get
Mhm.
up and do it all over again. How often is that our reality?
Oh,
And I
yeah.
love to look at what scripture says about things like this. And so I go to the parable of the talents, which I call the parable of the servants in Matthew
Yes.
25. The
One of
one
my
guy who
favorite.
got, the one guy who got the one talent, first of all, don't feel sad for him. That was 20 years' wages. We always think, oh, he had like two little pennies. No, he didn't. He had like millions of
Yeah.
dollars, in our currencies.
Hmm.
But what did he do? He managed it. He kept it contained. He kept it under control, which was a fear response. He
Mm-hmm.
was afraid if he didn't, it was going to get away from him and he was going to upset the master. But
Mm-hmm.
those other two servants, the one that got the two and the one that got the five, they understood that what they had been entrusted did not belong to them. This belonged to the master. He entrusted it into their hands. So hands up receiving, not I'm trying to keep it under control. And they understood that their job was to invest it. And that is literally what the word steward means. It means to invest resources on behalf of another with the goal of expanding. So
Mm-hmm.
when we steward, it's like, I don't see this as something I'm grabbing onto. I think so often we see time as this limited resource we have to chase or it's going to get away from us. And when we do grab hold of it, we like want to tight fist it because we don't want to like lose the minutes, right? Like we already don't have enough. I can't afford for this to be going through my fingers. But a steward, like there's wisdom there, there's a knowing of the master, right? There's a faith-based response that yeah, I'm going to make mistakes. Yeah, there were probably things that those guys did with their what would have been entrusted to them that didn't work out. But like over time, like there was a ROI. They both doubled what they had been given. And what was the master's response when he got back from the strip? Well done, good and faithful servants. Let me entrust you with more. Right. So I think when we run around this world feeling like A, it's all on me, B, it's all for me, like it's exhausting and it's not the purpose of anything that God has given us. And we all know this isn't going to last forever. Right. So, like,
Right.
we have to live today in light of that day. Right. Like, how am I stewarding my time, my talents, and my treasures? Right. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
those things that God has given me, how am I stewarding them to build the kingdom, not just my own comfort zone?
Mm-hmm. Oh my
And
gosh.
I
So
believe that
many
this
notes.
is the number one area that business owners need to address is their time. Because in
Absolutely.
our case, unlike those servants, they all got different amounts. You and I and everyone listening to this, we all get 24 hours today. And we all get 24 hours tomorrow. And no matter what it looks like on Instagram or Facebook, it looks like she has more time or she has all the time in the world. She doesn't. She still
Mm-hmm.
has 24 hours as well. So it's the number one equalizer, but it's also the number one differentiator because
Mm-hmm.
where we are, our results are the consequence, good, bad, or indifferent, of how we've approached and invested time up till now.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually really good news. Like we could make that mean something like, oh, woe is me, and I've da 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 whatever. And you can, right? Learn from it. But that means where you're going to be will be the consequence of how you choose to approach time as a steward and invest it wisely from now moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good news when you're building a business
Yeah.
because, yeah, sometimes we feel so limited by our time. Well, I would do this if I had more time. And I think a lot of times we bring this employee mindset into our business that if I want to earn more, so like you help your clients get to that 100K, I have to work more, right? Because that's what works like in the work world, right? I give you more hours, you give me more dollars. But that's not how it works in entrepreneurship,
Right.
right? And so it's about being wise with where we're investing our time and making sure we're not just checking boxes and have a busyness, but we're really paying attention with that CEO wisdom. I've redefined CEO as a Christ empowered operator of our
Oh,
business.
I
Like
love
it's not
that.
just me. This is like the ultimate steward thing, right? Like he's the chairman of the board. And I don't do anything without him. Um, but here now I show up every day as a Christ empowered operator saying, God, you've given me this time today. Where am I to invest this? And
Mm.
this is where like redeem her time is actually born out of Ephesians 5:15 through 16, which says, look carefully how you live. So there's intention,
Yep.
not as unwise, but as wise. We have choices. We could be the fear guy who tried to control and manage, or we can be the ones who were by faith went and stewarded, redeeming the time, which literally means making the most of the opportunities that are you've been given. Because, and I love this version, these are difficult days. Amen to some
Yeah.
difficult days, right? Lots
Yeah.
of like things
Absolutely.
that want our time and attention. I mean, we just came off of Black Friday. I mean, how many people wanted your time, attention, affection, and money?
Yeah.
And we're like, again, all over your inboxes trying to get you distracted by their
Yep.
shiny object. And we
Right.
chase shiny objects and squirrels all day long.
All day. All
But that
day.
doesn't build a business to 100K. You and I, both know that. So that's why
Right.
I believe this is the number one area that business owners have to address because someone can have amazing strategies that you give them. But if
Mm-hmm.
they are not, at number one, if they're believing that they don't have enough time, guess what? It's
They're not gonna
gonna
have enough time.
it's gonna be their truth.
Yep.
If they're approaching it like a manager instead of a steward,
Mm.
And if they're so hyper focused on the minutes, they're missing like the purpose behind it.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to get to 100K, or
Yes.
it's way longer.
Purpose and mission behind it. I love that so much. Okay, so when it comes to stewardship, if you could give kind of like a one, two, three sort of for the people that are listening, what would be
Mhm.
your advice on becoming a good steward? Like you
Yeah.
mentioned, kind of taking inventory of your time, your talent, and your treasures, I think you said.
Yeah.
Um, but what would kind of be that one, two, three sort of step for people to get started on that?
Yeah. I love this.
Okay.
Here's the thing. It's almost like it's simple, but it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You ready for
Mm-hmm.
this?
Yes.
You have to take your thoughts captive. Every single time
Yes.
that you say, I don't have time. Like I remember going to a women's retreat years ago, probably 15 years ago, and I still remember this speaker. She was
Mm,
speaking on that passage of scripture, and she said, every time I have a thought I have to take captive, she goes, I literally grab it with my hand and I throw it away.
way.
And so whenever that thought comes up, I don't have time, or some version of it, like we just said, I'm behind, there's not enough, da 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 da, right? You have to grab onto that and replace it with you have time. And I say it slowly in all caps with periods after each word
Mm,
because it has to slow you down, right? Like,
mhm.
and we are believing we don't have time, nothing's going to change, right? A
Right.
steward, because they have to recognize I have something in my hand. If they're running around saying I don't have anything, you can't steward anything. So that's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the second thing, is seeing yourself as a steward and not a manager. And here's one way you can do that. Okay. It's such a subtle shift. Again, it's simple but not easy. But the number one question that we ask about our time is, what time is it? And when you ask that question, how do you feel? Ah, you are somehow behind a clock and you are now running to catch up and you're feeling bad about yourself and you're feeling not enoughness and da 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 da, right?
Mhm.
Simple shift. So, what time is it? Two, what is it time for?
Excuse me.
Almost the exact same words,
What
but
is it time
what
for?
is it time for? Number one, I felt my shoulders go down, right? Like,
Yeah.
what is it time for? Doesn't make me start running. It makes me start thinking. It
Mm-hmm.
makes me start going, number one, I have time. And number two, there's a purpose for the time in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And now, like right now, it's time for you and I to have this conversation. It is not time for me to check my inbox or change my laundry or, feed the dogs or whatever else. Right. Like this is what it's time for. And I'm giving you my full focus. I think the problem, especially as moms, what do? We multitask.
Yeah.
We think it's our kryptonite. We think this is time to squeeze more into less time. But
Mm-hmm.
studies have shown when you multitask, things take 50% longer. So if your task usually takes you an hour, add another 30 minutes. Do you really have another 30 minutes to give that? Probably not,
No.
right? And you make up to 40% more mistakes. Hello, who has time to go clean up messes?
Yeah.
We've all been there, like helping the kid with homework while making dinner, while texting the client, while answering our husband's question. And like, true story, my daughter's melting down at the kitchen table. My pot's boiling over. I just misspelled my text to the client. Who knows what it said? And I committed to something to my husband. I have no idea what I just said yes to. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so when we're present to the fact that we have time and there's purpose behind it, now I can ask those questions. What is it time for?
Yeah.
And that's going to help with this thing. Because if it's time
Absolutely.
to be with my family, it's not time for this. If
Right.
it's time to work in my business, unless this is directly tied to what I'm doing, it's
Really.
not time for this. The
Right.
average person spends 4 hours and 30 minutes a day on their phone, just
Mm.
their phone, it's only one screen. Did the math because I was also a math teacher. That adds up to 70 days a year.
Yeah. Yikes.
That's average, which means some people are
Yeah.
150.
Absolutely.
And we say we don't
Absolutely.
have time. So if you ever need a heart check, go look at your screen
Go
time
and see how
and
long you've been on
you
there.
do have time. You've just given it away to lesser things. Okay, you can't get it back. So here's how time and money are different. I can't make more and
Mm-hmm.
I can't say, "Oh, I shouldn't have spent it on that. I'm going to return it." Nope, we can't. And so that's where there has to be wisdom and there has to be presence and there has to be attention to what's going on. And I'm also a big believer in we have to make sure that we are creating, I know I almost hate calling it this, but I can't come up with a different way yet, but work-life balance.
Ah,
Again, I don't love the term, but here's the thing. It makes sense because if life is taking over business, then this isn't going to grow to 100K because it's not getting my time and attention.
Right.
But if business is taking over life, then these things are getting neglected. And guess what? Down the road, they are going to demand your attention and will always cost you more down the road.
Yeah.
More money, more time, more stress, more anxiety, more emotion, right? So I teach that balance is not a noun. It's not like the scales like this, that if I put two things on this side, I put two things on this side, and it's even Steven.
Right.
Balance is a verb. Think
Mhm.
about a ballerina. If you watch her dance and you look from the waist up, she looks like she is like in that perfect balance spot. But look at her toes. What is
Mhm.
she? She's making tiny little adjustments all
Mhm.
the time because she's making sure that nothing pulls her too far in one direction or she's going to be, on the ground.
It's a great analogy.
And that's balance is a verb for us, especially as business owners, especially as moms and wives and ministry leaders and everything else, right? We have to be paying attention to these areas of our life. I teach 8 areas of your life, and I put faith at the center instead of faith being one part of the wheel, like equal around. I go, nope, faith is the bullseye. This is what is the core of everything. And now I pay attention to what needs my time and attention.
Mm.
So there are seasons where you're pushing towards, a big launch in your business. Yes, you're going to put a little bit more towards your business, and that's okay for a season. Just
Mhm.
like it's okay if your kid is sick and you're like having to table or reschedule some things because, that is really needing
Yeah.
your time and attention. So it's paying attention to what needs your attention,
Mm.
and not just letting things fill time by default, because and if you don't fill the time, something or someone will fill it for you.
Right. Right.
So we want to be.
Listen, yeah, Alyssa, as you're talking, I keep thinking of the word expectations coming
Mm,
up. And I kind of feel like it's kind of saying actually what you were just talking about there's a season for everything.
mm,
When I started in business, I had expectations that were like way up here. Actually, even when I got married, I had all these expectations of what a good wife should be, right? But because I wasn't like fulfilling that every day, I suddenly felt like I was doing a bad job and I wasn't a good wife. And then as a business owner, when I first started out, I was doing a lot of live videos and my kids were real young, so they're always coming in the room. And I remember getting so angry with them because they would come in the room after I told them not to come in the room, right? But then once I like shifted my expectations that I am a mom who's in business, who works from home with small kids, like it's okay for them to come in. Things got easier. And when I think
mm.
of what you're saying now, like there definitely are seasons in life where we can focus more of our energy on bigger things and other seasons where we need to take a step back and maybe put more of our focus on our family or some other aspect of our business. And I think so going back to the word expectation, I kind of think like sometimes we just have to have this overall understanding that our expectations in business don't have to look like everybody else's, for
Mm.
one. And when we let go of those expectations of what we think a good business should look like, we have more flexibility in making that balance, like you said, the verb of balance. Um, I really love
Yeah,
that.
at one point I was posting 8 times a day because that's what the gurus told me to
That's what
do.
they said you to do. Yes, I
And
know.
you think about like how much access we have to all these experts, right? Who are just
Yeah.
layering one more thing on our plate. And I love that you use the word expectation because I call them the four shuns. Expectations, what others think we should do,
Mm.
obligations, what we think we should do,
Mhm.
interruptions, like the kids running in, the dog barking, the whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
and distractions. Like those are the four. We have to be aware. And sometimes I was just having this conversation with one of my clients today. Sometimes those things, some of those things can be God's invitation. Your kid coming in may be, you know what, you just need to give them a hug because right now they need some mom love, right? Or that client
Mhm.
needs, a little TLC or whatever,
Mhm.
right? But sometimes they are a distraction, and the enemy loves to keep us busy and distracted. That's his
Yeah.
number one tactic. If he can keep us busy and distracted, we're of no threat to him and no good to the kingdom. So
Mhm.
that really stood out to me. The other thing that stood out to me too was I think we often approach life and business like it's an either or. Either
Yeah.
I'm good at business and I'm not giving my family and myself and all these things time, or vice versa. And I think it really should be a both and. I
Mm.
think it is possible to have an amazing, flourishing, fruitful business if we're if we're being intentional about where our time is going, checking the ROI all the time, and also having these great relationships and having great health and having, opportunities to serve in our community and ministries and things like that, So I think we have to get out of the mentality of it's not like Superwoman, you can do it all, right? But it's just like, okay, I'm stewarding these different areas and I can do both and not just either or.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. 100%. Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So as you were kind of talking, so we have a lot of people that come onto this podcast and inside of our community, and they're all at various stages of their business. And a lot of them are always curious as to what other people's work days look like. So could you give us a little bit of insight as to what your day or week looks like in general?
Yeah, I would love to do that. And then I'd love to share with you what I believe are the four CEO essentials.
Oh,
Anyone in
absolutely.
business, it's like these are must-haves, not nice to haves. Okay, so
Yes.
typical day, right? I'm up at a little before 6. I get my water and I do some Pilates or stretching or strength for like 15, 20 minutes. I then do my pour over coffee. And while I'm doing that, I'm listening to my With God vision, which talks through each of the 8 areas of my life. So I'm prayerfully listening to it. And then
Mm,
I spend Jesus on the couch for like an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I call that my daily CEO meeting with God. Like I'm listening to
yeah.
his voice, I'm praying, I'm talking over my business, I'm doing some journaling as a CEO, like all these things, setting my intentions for the day. Then I'm going to get ready, probably listening to worship music or a great podcast or things like that. And then, it just depends on the day. I like to like chunk my week. So, for example, I chunk all of my appointments on Tuesdays and Wednesdays so that Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays can be like that deeper focus work, right? Or client work or things like that. So, just depending on the day, right, will kind of depend on what's going on. And then one of the things that I teach the way that I teach time blocking is about paying present to what is it time for? And I teach that we all need 2 refills in our day, a morning refill and an evening refill. Just like your phone has to go on the charger at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and you need to fill your cup before you pour out of it.
Yeah.
So that's filling body, mind, spirit. And then in the middle are the 3 pour outs, whether it's pouring out into our family or household. So for you with young kids at home, that time may go longer into your day than mine does, where I just have 3 dogs,
Mm,
and my husband sometimes at work already and sometimes at home. And then I've got that middle of my day where that's my work time. So and anyway, all that to say, towards the end of my day, it is time to now pour out into my family and household to wind down the day, dinner, clean up the kitchen, prepare for the next day, and then an evening refill. Like
mm,
not binging or working up until the minute we go to bed and then wonder why we can't fall asleep.
right.
Like what is it that's truly refilling
Mm,
body, mind, spirit, so that yeah, we're like done for the day and we're starting
mm-hmm.
to get our body and mind ready for bed. So that's what a typical day looks like.
That's great.
Yeah, and then the other thing I was going to touch on are the 4 CEO essentials. Because when it
Essential.
comes to time, yes, essentials mean like you have to have this.
Yeah.
I don't think you cannot. So one of them I've already mentioned, and that's your daily CEO meeting with God, right?
Right.
Like that is the most
Absolutely.
important time. I don't care
Yeah.
how many appointments you have on your calendar that day. I don't care how
Right.
many emails you have to write. I don't care how many whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That is time that is always going to produce an abundant ROI. So that's the first one. The second one is the CEO ideal time template, where just like I walked you through my week, Mondays are for this and Tuesdays are for this. So we lay out those refills and pour outs for the week. And then we get specific in your business of what your focus is and when. The third one are what I call CEO workflows. I believe 90% of what we do is recurring and it should not be on a to-do list.
Mm,
So ditch to-do lists and stop keeping it all in your head or on all the random post-it notes. And we create systems and, like when you do something, there's the same steps you do every time. Why are we reinventing the wheel? Even today, I
really.
went and got my annual mammogram. Guess what? That is a reoccurring task. I will do that 1 year from now. So
Yep.
that's part of, even those things that feel random aren't really random. So it's saving a whole bunch of inefficiencies and things like that.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one is what I call CEO growth plan, because so many busyness owners are spending time working in their business, not on their
On the
business.
business.
They're putting out fires. They're just trying to manage their inbox. I had one of my clients tell me she was spending 2 hours a day just going through inbox stuff. I was like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of
That
time.
is a lot of
That
time.
is not really producing very much, right?
Yeah.
But we like fall prey to the tyranny of the urgent and all the
Mm-hmm.
things. have us all day long, right? So this is a way to help you work on your business, the bigger growth goals, the bigger growth plans, and then we break them down into 12-week chunks so that you have like focus towards something and you get more done in 12 weeks than most people get done in 12 months. It's crazy. So anyway, those are the four CO essentials. And what I love is when you've got those things in place around your time, now I can take a system like you're teaching, and it's not one of those like, oh, I should do that. Oh, that would be great. Oh, yeah. Like I know exactly where to insert it in my day, in my week, in
Mm-hmm.
my plan, so that you are consistently, putting time and attention into it and hitting the 100K, right? And
Mm-hmm.
probably in less time than you
Less
expected.
time. Absolutely. Because you're cutting out all the fluff. You're cutting out all the things that are not necessary and focusing on the most important. Yeah.
Exactly.
Goodness, I love that so much. It was very insightful. I'm really, really excited for people to watch this particular interview. I mean, the value and the takeaways that you've given so far are important for every single business owner, no matter what stage that they're in. So thank you for
Can I,
all that
can
you
I show you
shared.
one more visual? Do we have a
Yes,
really quick
please
minute?
do.
Okay. It's behind me on my little desk here, so hopefully I don't dump it. I'm not
Oh,
gonna like
here
do
we
the full
go.
thing, but I call this my Skittles and oranges illustration. So you can see that everything perfectly fits, like literally up to the top here. Okay. Now, if I had the containers here, which I don't, I take everything out of these and I talk about the fact that the Skittles are all the random things in life,
Yeah.
all the distractions, all the squirrels, all the shiny objects, all the I should do that's and whatever, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
I were to when I pour the Skittles in here, they come up to like about 2/3. Okay. And then the oranges are the important things in life. And there are 8 of them, which are the 8 areas I talk about: faith walk, family, friendships, your service, which is your business and the work you do, stewardship of resources, wellness, passions, having fun. Yes, you should, and dwelling, caring for our homes. There's not room for the oranges. They start falling off the top. Like there's not room. Okay. Then I dump everything back out and I put the oranges in first. And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
When I put the exact same Skittles in, everything fits because order determines capacity.
Oh,
So if you feel like you don't have time for some things, it's probably because you're letting the world or yourself fill your time with Skittles first and not the oranges,
mm-hmm.
right? So, like, what would it look like to go, what are the things that matter? Put those in first. I believe that time with the Lord is number one, right? Family is the next one, then my business, right? These other things.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy how there's time for everything when you put them in the right order.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to show you that because this is such a
Yeah.
visual thing we're doing anyway. Like I would love to pour and it's crazy. You're like, how did that just do that? It's like a magic trick, but
Yeah. Oh, it's
yeah,
a fantastic visual, Alyssa. That is fantastic. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so we like to end our interviews with a little tradition, and the tradition is that we ask our guest a question that's just randomly pulled out of a hat or a jar in this case. And the questions come from either past interview guests or by audience members. And so we'd like to ask you a question. Are you open to that today?
of course.
Let me find where I put it. Okay, here we go. What is the biggest lesson or hardest lesson that you have learned through failure?
Oh, girl. I think we fail way more than we get things right, right?
Yeah, true,
Uh,
true.
um, like I'm just trying to think through like what comes to my mind right now. I don't know if this would necessarily be a failure, but I was launching a new program. I had a new like focus. It was going to be called Simplified Focus, actually. It was going to help women simplify around what matters, right? So it's still in keeping with what I'm doing now. I had done all this promotion for it. I had done phone calls with people. I had 40 people on my wait list. And I'd had conversations with these 40 people, not just somebody clicked something on social and, I don't know if they really, meant it
Yeah.
or not. And so I was like, okay, I am heading on a mission trip. When I get back, the doors will open. You guys can come in and we're kicking this off. And like, this is amazing. Right. So I go on my trip, get back, jet lagged, but like waiting for luggage. I'm like, I'm just going to open the doors now. Why wait? I had the email already and whatever. So like send it from my phone from the airport. Crickets, crickets. For 2 weeks, one person came in. I got home. I started reaching out directly to all those 40 people. I literally heard nothing. And I was like,
What
God,
happened?
I thought this is what we were doing. Well,
Yeah.
and you got to understand that back in the day, like Lissa would get like the rubber stamp of approval from God, and then I would be off and running. So this very well could have been what I was doing. But anyway, I was just like, I don't know. And he was like, would you stop and ask me then? And so like I committed a week of fasting and praying. And it was
Mm.
during that week that I had a random conversation with some lady I randomly met in a networking event who asked me a pivotal question, which then led to something that I heard in a sermon that Sunday. And right then and there in the church pew on the back of my sermon notes, I always like have great podcast and business ideas in church. Was when Redeem Her Time was born. And the next week I started talking about Redeem Her Time. And it was like the floodgates opened and people were like, yes, I want to be a part of that. I want to be in and I want to, but it
Wow.
was me getting to that point of like, I thought I had built something really
Yeah.
good and all these
Mm-hmm.
people were going to want it. And then nobody came in. Right. So,
Mm.
I mean, it was God's protection that I
Yep.
didn't do that and go so far down that road.
Oh man.
But yeah, I had to see that it wasn't all about me and what my great ideas were.
Yeah. That's awesome. I have a very similar story that you and me could talk about later. But isn't that amazing? Kind of going back to the whole idea, like we can build really great things, but oh, it was someone else that I was talking to about this. Like we can build really great things on our own, but when we give God the lead, the things that he builds are beyond what we can ever expect. And
Ephesians 3, right? To him is
yeah,
able exceedingly abundantly beyond all four superlatives we could ask
yeah.
or imagine. And John 15 talks about the fact it is to my glory that you bear much fruit. And so when I talk with my CEOs, I'm like, you should be seeing abundant ROI. It's not always in the tangible, but like with God, there's always an abundant ROI. God is not a just barely enough God or never enough God. Like he's always more than,
Mhm.
and so I think we have to come, yeah, and understand that we have access to the God of the universe.
Yeah,
Hello.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Lissa, thank you so much for coming today. If anyone would like to contact you, we do have Lissa's show contact information inside of the show notes here for you. But also, Lissa, is there anything else that you would like to say to the audience before we close up today?
Yeah, just the reminder that you have time. In fact, I'll pull this out. That
Oh,
is
I
the
pulled mine
bookmark.
here. Oh, I wanted to talk about your
Yay.
planner. Ah!
Yeah. So the bookmark inside the planner says you have time because I want that to be a reminder. And
Oh, I love that.
this planner just launched like a month ago, and
Yeah.
it's a way to make time tangible because time is one of those things that like it's so out there, and so often we've got our Google calendars and we're scrolling, but
Yeah.
you can't really get your hands around what's really filling your time when you're living by that. And so,
Mhm.
yep, this is old school paper pencil, and I like to say a big pink eraser because God does lots of erasing of plans that I make. And
That's
yeah, this
great.
is the work that I'm helping women do that most people don't or won't, and that is to push
Yeah.
pause on the busyness and think about their time. What
Yes.
one, that it's a gift. Number two, I'm a steward. And number three, there's a purpose in it. And
Hmm.
so it's actually a planner with a digital course. The digital course is free. It's like $9.97 value, but you get it for free because I want you to understand like how we're turning time management on its head, how we're un-time managing, how we're just saying that we're not going to do it the way the rest of the world does. And there's a whole different
Mm-hmm.
purpose how we do it. So yeah, so the planner would be a great tool. You can go to redeemhertime.com and find the planner or the podcast. There is an assessment that's from the planner that's on the website as well. If you just want to kind of get a sneak peek of this balance assessment. So how balanced am I, and what needs my time and attention. So yeah, any of those things on redeemhertime.com would be a great place to start.
Yeah, and your website is fabulous. Yes, everything is there. So if you're looking for something, just visit her website. I did just want to make one more little plug for this planner. So I am a planner fanatic. I mean, over the years, it's just something that I love. I love looking through the pages and writing things down. I just love that so much. Um, but when I got your planner, I was blown away. Like, it's beautiful. It might be hard to see, but it's like this green. It's almost the green that you're wearing, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so beautiful, but more than beautiful, it has like things in here that are like the whole beginning of this is understanding stewardship of your
Mhm.
time and understanding your priorities and there's just so much here. And I had a planner before this that I've used for the past 2 years that I've absolutely loved. Big brand name. But when I got yours, I'm like, I'm sold. I'm going to
Love
move
it.
forward with this one. So thank you for putting that together. It is beautiful. I think everybody should grab one. Um,
It's the planner I always wish I had because I'm like you. I would love planners, but I would like this about this one
yeah.
and this about this one, but none of them
Yes.
really go to the heart behind our time.
Yes.
And this one is filled, you'll see as you go, with questions to make you pause and think about your time before you jump into the next week, before you jump
Yes.
into the next month, or before you jump into the next season,
And
because we
this
have to pay attention.
is this broken down into quarters?
Seasons so that you can, it's
Seasons.
undated intentionally,
Yeah.
so that you don't have to go off of, oh, it's Q1. It doesn't really
Yeah.
matter.
That's where my mind instantly went, I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, yeah. I get it.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. I think it's so great. And coming from you, if you say that this is the planner that you've always wanted, like I get that. And I'm going to listen to you because you are the expert with stewardship of time. Well, you are the the collaborator with the Lord, who's the true expert.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
He's giving you so much wisdom, and I'm just so thankful that you have shared so much wisdom with us today, Lissa. With that, we'll close out, and you and me will talk again soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Teresa. And thanks to your
You're,
audience today.
yeah, you're welcome. Okay, talk soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
The Productive and Profitable channel is all about helping entrepreneurs grow wildly profitable businesses without sacrificing time with their families or the things they love. And we do this through top-notch trainings and community. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notifications button so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're ready to dive deeper and take your business to the next level, be sure to join our free business community over on Facebook. Simply visit teresataylorcoaching.com and hit the community tab. We can't wait to see you over there.